The 90s can be best characterized as the grungy nu metal buffer between the decades of synthetic pop and bling hip-hop. Airport security didn't resemble Supermax prison, you could buy sprunk that was see-through, the commander-in-chief of the free world was busy getting Oval Office sloppies, and Japan cemented itself as a technology epicenter of the modern world. Even those Soviets underwent a little bit of corporate rebranding. Who knew these guys were called Russians this whole time? Speaking of that Pacific island state known as Japan, they were creating cultural and technological ripples across the globe. That meant that your television set and the cool animated robot show beaming out of it all came from the same place. The 1990s could also be seen as a tipping point for Japanese predominance in the stagnating North American auto industry. Companies like Anis, Dinka, Killatomate, Batsu were at the forefront of affordability and reliability. Dinka was killing it with the Conjo and Ballista compact line, Karen hit the competition where it hurt most with a reliable pickup, and then of course there was Anis. Anis did everything the other companies did, but they made everything just a tad more exhilarating. Just like the Americans, they too believed in the race on Sunday, sell on Monday philosophy, taking to the tracks at home as well as in France and Australia. Anis engineered excitement, which only made it harder to bear when they indifferently chose which countries were deserving of their finest sports cars. They wouldn't let us anywhere near this, but they did let us have this for a few years. The Anis ZR350. The ZR350 is an odd vehicle in more ways than one. The 350 was Anis's third attempt at a lightweight front-engine rear-wheel sports car, yet somehow it was too big even for Japanese standards, so native owners would have to pay extra in taxes just to daily it. As far as looks go, this thing screams early 1990s, but in a good way. Pop-up headlights? Check. Bubble bumper? Check. Weird trunk hatch thing? Also check. To be able to judge why a ZR350 is so special compared to these, you'll need to dig deeper than just looks. Alright, pop the hood. Let's get this out of the way early. Are you seeing this? No V8s, inline 4s, 6s, or hamster wheels in here. The 350 gets its high revving performance out of a genuine two-rotor wanker engine. A what? Okay, long story, but basically this German engineer designed a rotary engine, named the thing after himself, and then allowed companies to incorporate them via study contracts. East German cars were doing it, so Anis wanted to jump in on the trend of producing cars with impressive power-to-weight ratios. For those wondering, the lightweight rotary engine works like this. Imagine you have one of those pattern block sets for toddlers. You have an oval-shaped hole, but your neurons aren't quite firing as fast as the other kids, so you begin unsuccessfully ham-fisting other shapes into the hole until you find a weird rounded triangle. It fits but gets stuck. You begin twisting the triangle around in circles to make it fall through. Only if this were a real engine, you would be creating combustible energy in the temporary air pockets as the triangle spins around the hole. Add a second rotor and an entire car into the mix, and presto, you have a ZR350. So why are we still using the traditional ICE design, nearly a century and a half later? As it turns out, the ZR350 requires a lot of maintenance and care. Like, a lot more. The manual states you need to redline the car regularly to clean out the carbon deposits. It leaks like a raw oil rig, and has the same MPG as a baller. It didn't help that the ZR350 was incredibly finicky either. Anything from using the wrong kind of oil to neglecting to change your coolant would speedrun your engine's life expectancy. Even simply driving the car increased your possibility of slow cooking the internals to an oily crisp. So buying one of these secondhand from anybody who hasn't kept it in a garage for the past 30 years almost guarantees an imminent engine rebuild. Double if the last guy had it looking like the extra to a low-budget street racing film. But man, does this thing look cool running a downhill toge with one of those camcorder Snapmatic filters. Needless to say, ownership of a brand new ZR350 was an expensive labor of love, which affected the car's sales as time went on. Worse still, compared to what it had at home, Anis gave the world peanuts when it came to performance packages. The ZR350 in the US never even got the sequential turbos, instead settling with variations of base packages. Even despite its flaws and lack of options, the car was praised for its weightlessness, sleek stature, and smooth simplicity. The ZR350 wasn't weighed down with computers and all-wheel drivetrains like its peers, so its performance took critics by surprise. Though the car's nimble handling and grippy performance hasn't aged as well as the design has. What didn't take people by surprise was a bland and uninspired interior. In fact, it feels like it's been done before. The ZR350 shares the same fate as all late 90s Japanese sports cars. To some, the quirky coupe gained a cultural resurgence and an enthusiastic tuning culture, while others might say that a couple of movies were responsible for the aftermarket mass mutilation of the ZR350. Whichever belief you subscribe to, surviving examples of the car are now worth retirement savings. Drive this thing into any parking lot, and a horde of 20-year-olds will emerge around you screaming in excitement like primates discovering an alien monolith. They'll utter the letters J, D, and M, disregarding the car's American design and Germanic engineering. Ignore these caveats and the fact that the wheel is on the left side, and anything can be JDM if you believe hard enough. The ZR350 is kinda like the guitarist in a famous boy band. It might not have been the most successful member after the band broke up, but nobody can imagine the group without them. The ZR line soldiered on after the rotary was put out to pasture, and in its wake lies a legacy of confusingly named sports coupes we all know and love.